Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the High Commission of Cyprus, Cypriots in the City and Oxygen for Democracy, welcome and thank you for joining us today. The relationship between Cyprus and the United Kingdom is built not only on strong diplomatic ties, but also on deep and enduring people-to-people connections. More than 300,000 Cypriots live in the UK, while over 1.2 million British citizens visit Cyprus every year. As recognized in the Cyprus-UK strategic dialogue, these personal links form one of the strongest foundations of the relationship between our two countries and are an important bridge between our societies. It was for this reason that in 2024, when the Cyprus High Commission and the Cyprus Forum team first explored the possibility of bringing this important platform to London to encourage dialogue on issues of shared significance to the Cyprus-UK relationship, highlighting the contribution of the Cypriot diaspora, emerged as an obvious and central theme. Over the first two editions of Cyprus Forum London, as it is now known, we have been privileged to welcome a remarkable array of diaspora voices. This have included Bambos Charalambous, Member of Parliament, Christos Karaolis, President of the National Federation of Cypriots in the UK, who will be offering the closing remarks later today, Christos Touton, President of NEPOMAC, the global organization representing young Cypriots in the diaspora, Christos Passas, Design Director at Zaha Hadid Architects, Ilke Dagli Hastings, Director General of the Center for Sustainable Peace and Democratic Development, Konstantin Kotsias, Europe Director at Bloomberg UK, Emel Akçali, Senior Lecturer in Defense Studies at King's College London, and Jason Charalambous of Conservative Friends of Cyprus. There are many more prominent Cypriots in the diaspora that we hope to host in future editions. From the participation of just the last 2 years, one can see the extraordinary breadth of talent, expertise, and influence that the Cypriot diaspora continues to contribute across public life, business, academia, culture, and civic society in the United Kingdom. Today's event brings two of the most prominent Cypriots in the business world, Theo Paphitis and Touker Suleyman, both widely recognized for their appearances on the BBC's popular program Dragon's Den. Their achievements have inspired entrepreneurs across the United Kingdom and beyond. To formally open the event, it is my pleasure to invite His Excellency High Commissioner Kyriakos Kouros, followed by Fanos Theophanos, co-founder and president of Cypriots in the City. High Commissioner, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. You are most welcome to the Cyprus House, and I'm very glad that we have a full room. I noticed some phones were ringing, so it's a good indication we will put ours in silence so that we don't have repetition of this unfortunate event. And having said that, it's an absolute pleasure to welcome you to the High Commission for our diaspora dedicated part of Cyprus Forum London. Cyprus Forum London started 3 years ago. This is the second part of it for this year. The first one was on May 18. It was more political, more diplomatic. It spoke about the hybrid threat that the whole of Europe is facing. And jointly with the United Kingdom and the European Union, we tried to gather voices and give the floor to how Europe should move forward in dealing with these threats today. So this part today is more pleasant to me because I am in the 4th decade of my career as a diplomat, and I usually deal with crises from one century to the other. So, with Oxygen for Democracy, we have tried over the last 3 years to create a platform for dialogue in London through Cyprus Forum London on issues of shared importance for the Cyprus-United Kingdom relationship. One of the most important aspects of that relationship, its foundations, I would argue, it is its people. Beyond diplomacy, beyond trade and shared history, it is the human connections between our two countries that give this relationship its strength and enduring character. A substantial number of people in the United Kingdom can trace their roots to Cyprus, while countless families maintain close personal, cultural, and economic ties across both countries. These bonds have enriched our societies and strengthened our communities. The Cypriot story in Britain spans generations, with first significant wave of migration in the 1930s, not in the 1970s, in the 1930s, followed by a much larger movement during the turbulent 1950s and 1960s, as Cypriots came to Britain seeking opportunity and a better future for their family. And then, of course, after the 1974 catastrophe, I choose correctly my word, catastrophe, when many of those displaced sought to rebuild their lives abroad. At the start of the 21st century, Cyprus' accession to the European Union opened new opportunities for young Cypriots who chose the United Kingdom, one of the most popular destinations already for higher education, to come, study, and then stay, build careers, raise families, and contribute to every aspect of British life. Like the generations before them, they worked hard, integrated successfully, and made their achievements part of the success story of the country that became their new home. Today's event brings together two of those remarkable individuals of humble beginnings that were born in Cyprus and their families moved to the UK for a better future. Theo Paphitis and Touker Suleyman, two highly accomplished entrepreneurs, widely respected business leaders, and familiar faces to many through their participation at different times on the British television business program Dragons Den. One could say that they turned that seat on the Dragons panel into the Cypriot seat. Their achievements extend far beyond television. Between them, they have built, acquired, and transformed businesses across a range of sectors, including retail, fashion, property, and consumer brands. Their decades of experience navigating changing markets, identifying opportunities, and supporting entrepreneurial talent have made them influential figures in British business. Touker has built and backed businesses across retail, fashion, and consumer sectors, combining sharp commercial insight with decades of hands-on experience. Theo has built an impressive career spanning retail, property, and investment, leading and transforming major brands while championing small businesses across the UK, becoming a passionate advocate for innovation. They have both consistently demonstrated the vision, resilience, and commercial acumen required to succeed in a competitive global marketplace. Two individuals with parallel lives but shared experiences who reached the top of their fields with a warmth that I have felt meeting both of them. Two people that carry with them the unique spirit of Cyprus itself. Their journey are a testament to the opportunities that the United Kingdom has afforded generations of Cypriots to build successful lives, realize their potentials, and transform ambition into achievement, never losing sight of their roots. Their story tells us something else too, that friendship, success, and Cypriotness are not limited to one community or the other. We will discover their more personal story through their conversation with another Cypriot, the moderator for today's event, who came much later to the United Kingdom, Ms. Eleni Kourea. In a relatively short period of time, Eleni has become a well-respected political correspondent for one of the main national newspapers in the UK, and writing for some of the biggest news outlets in the country since 2018, when she started her reporting career covering the halls of Westminster and Woodhall with integrity. Today, though, I do not intend to talk more about politics. I invite you, however, to see the politics, to hear the mentorship, to feel the friendship, and be inspired about the future and our potential as Cypriots in the UK. Thank you very much.
Your Excellency, the High Commissioner, distinguished guests, friends, most importantly, fellow Cypriots, welcome. Kalos ήρθατε. There is something quite extraordinary about this room. Look around you. This is the Cyprus House, a building that stands as a symbol of our presence, our dignity, and our voice here in the United Kingdom. And today, within these walls, we gather not to look back at where we came from, but to look squarely at where we're going. This is exactly the spirit of Cypriots in the city. When we founded this community in 2005, the idea was deceptively simple, that the Cypriot diaspora had built something remarkable in business, in finance, in culture, and in public life, and that those stories deserved to be told, celebrated, and shared. That those connections deserve to be made. That the next generation of Cypriot professionals deserve role models who looked like them, sounded like them, and they started where they started. Today's guests are in every sense the perfect role models of that idea. Theo Paphitis, for many in this country, needs absolutely no introduction, and yet it is well worth saying he is one of the most successful retail entrepreneurs Britain has produced. From humble beginnings, he built and led businesses that became household names. He sat in the den and told thousands of aspiring entrepreneurs the uncomfortable truths they needed to hear. He has been generous with his time, his wisdom, and with the community in general. And through all of it, he has never once forgotten where he is from. Theo, on behalf of every Cypriot in this room, thank you very much. Ευχαριστώ πολύ. Touker, a man who has made British fashion his canvas and proven repeatedly that taste and timing can take you from anywhere to everywhere. Touker has built a legacy in an industry that respects nothing but results. His voice in the den has been unflinching, his instincts sharp, and his journey rooted in a Cypriot family's sacrifices is one that resonates deeply in this room. Touker, welcome too. What unites these two remarkable men, beyond their commercial achievements, beyond the television fame, is that thread of heritage that binds everyone in this room. The Cypriot story is a story of resilience, of families who arrived in this country with very little, built a great deal, and gave back even more. It is a story of people who carried two identities, British and Cypriot, and who have learned over generations that those two identities do not compete, they compound. This afternoon promises to be exactly what it says on the invitation. Straight talk, no polished press lines, no rehearsed answers. Just two extraordinary men, their honest reflections on building businesses, navigating failure, leading teams, and staying connected to the values that shaped them. I hope you will listen, not just with curiosity, but with intention, because in this room there are future founders, future investors, future leaders. And what Theo and Touker have to say today may well be the conversation that changes the trajectory of someone's life. On behalf of Cypriots in the city, thank you for being here. Thank you to our co-organizers, the High Commission and to Cyprus Forum, and to everyone who made it to this event. Thank you, as always, to the extraordinary community for continuing to show up for one another. Gentlemen and Eleni, the floor is yours.
So thank you, High Commissioner. Thank you, Vanos, for your remarks. I think you can all tell that today's discussion centers on ambition, entrepreneurship, resilience, and leadership, maybe even friendship. We are privileged to be joined by two of the UK's most recognizable business figures whose achievements have inspired countless entrepreneurs, making them uniquely placed to share insights on what it takes to succeed in an increasingly competitive global environment. To lead the conversation, we are delighted to welcome Eleni Bourea, political correspondent at The Guardian. Please welcome them all to the stage.
It's got a very bad name.
Yes, old age.
Welcome to you both. Welcome everybody here. It's fantastic to see a packed room with standing room only at the back. of people to see, as we've heard so many times, two of the most successful Cypriots in the business world. My name is Elena Correa. I'm a political correspondent for The Guardian. And I'm going to start by asking both of these gentlemen some questions and getting them talking about their careers and their roots before we turn to the audience yourselves for questions. So please have a think about what you would like to ask them. Theo, Touker, welcome.
Thank you.
As we've discussed, two enormously successful entrepreneurs. You've built retail empires from scratch, and you've both appeared on Dragon's Den, entertaining us and investing in dozens of British businesses. But I want to start by asking you, how did you first meet and how did you become friends?
What do you mean, friends?
Or, well, that's
I actually didn't meet Touker many, many years after he joined the Den. In fact, it was at least 3 years that after he joined, and we were actually, it was a Retail Week event,
Yes.
I think it was, and it was the first time we've both of us been in the same room at the same time, because everybody used to get confused that we were the same person.
By the way, the amount of times I've been asked, are you Theo? I could have become me now.
Well, I'll tell
That's how famous you are.
you, yeah. And as you can see, I'm the older one of the two. But we actually hit it off from the very first minute we met. An incredible character, and I think the warmth that you get for being a Cypriot overcomes anything else. And we very quickly became friends and realised we had so many things in common, not just the land of our birth, which clearly we will never forget.
Absolutely. What's your recollection of?
Well, it was at an event, and I think we bumped into each other, and in a funny sort of way, it was a sense of as if we'd known each other. You know, once you've been on Dragon's Den. Oh, you look. Are you Theo? Or of course, Theo was a dragon before me, so he'd already set the pace. And I think we just hit it off, very down to earth, very straight. And I think it's very obvious. The first glance is you trust somebody, you're open, similar backgrounds, similar industries, you have a lot in common, all helps.
Absolutely. And so, as you've discussed, I mean, you both moved here when you were very young. Your parents were Cypriot, but you really grew up in England. Do you maintain any connection to Cyprus? Do you ever go back? What was the last time you were there?
I was there about 2-3 weeks ago, enjoying the sunny climes of Limassol. Unfortunately, most of my relatives are no longer living. My mother passed away during COVID, although I've got some distant cousins still there, so I still visit them. And I lost the final member of my mother's family only a few months ago. So that gives me, and I have got a home there. So I still have a very good reason to visit, and I do make sure I visit a few times a year, minimum.
I haven't been back for a few years.
But you've got to tell everyone, you have got a Cypriot passport.
I have got a Cypriot passport.
Congratulations.
My brother and my sister moved back recently, about 10 years ago that they lived there. And what can I say? I'm planning to go visit my sister. She's the eldest out of the four of us. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Do you have any memories from when you were growing up of your family's food, for example, things that connected you back to Cyprus when you were going to school?
Well, I remember when I came over in 1959. I was 5 years old, so you can work on my age. And I remember two things dramatically. One, when I was in Cyprus, but more than that, the biggest thing I remember was being on a boat, coming from Cyprus to the UK, and getting lost on the boat.
You've read my story. Exactly the same thing happened to me.
Maybe you're the same.
Getting lost on the boat and arrived, it must have been in Dover, but it's foggy in those days, and it was in the 50s, and it was dark and dreary, and there was we as a family being immigrating from Cyprus to the UK.
What about you, Theo?
I've got great memories. I went to junior sort of nursery school. My mother worked, and I can remember, being dropped off at an early age. Allowed to play a little bit, then come lunchtime, you were given a piece of bread with water and sugar on it.
Is this in Manchester?
No, in Cyprus.
Oh, before you moved.
Then we had to rest, and of course, there's no way I was going to rest. I got ants in my pants. So I remember that clearly, and I remember the day we got on the boat, just like Touker, and that was the big adventure. We went to goodbye to all our relatives. Went to see my granddad, who gave me this little pouch. And he gave it to me. And I said, well, what is it? And it was just a little pouch with loads of old pennies. And there used to be no pre-decimal pennies. You wouldn't have a clue what I'm talking about. But they were about this big, right? For those of us that remember, or like history. And I always call that my walk in the street money. And I had those pennies on the boat. And I also got, these boats were huge. I also got lost many times on that boat and had to be brought back to my parents' cabins. But that was always my walk in the street.
What year was that, Pierre?
So that was in 1966. And, you know, we won the World Cup as soon as I arrived. I'm taking full credit. I've not been able to repeat it since.
Bobby Moore, Charles.
No, I've not repeat it since. But my parents thought and were told. Remember, in those days in Cyprus, no one had a TV. So, while my father and my grandfather worked for the British in the bases, had the British passport, hence the ability to come to the UK. They didn't know what the UK was. They didn't have a clue. Other than the streets were paved with gold, and all you had to do is walk on the pavement, and if you were bothered to pick up the money, you're okay. If you couldn't be bothered, that's fine. They'd look after you.
Right.
Surprisingly, no, not now is all we got.
Could knock me over that.
Surprisingly, it wasn't quite like that.
Yeah.
And we settled in a place called Manchester, which was dark, loads of smoke, because we had coal fires.
Yeah.
In those days.
Look, I think if you think about all of our parents who've immigrated, they take a risk for the children. And I think at the time, you know, whatever the opportunities were in Cyprus, my parents, I'm sure Theo's parents, felt that coming to the UK was a new opportunity, not for them, probably, more for the families and the children. And I think a lot of things that we Cypriots do is for our children.
I think that's absolutely true.
And family life is so important to us all, especially coming from, I mean, we talk about it, we talk about some of the issues that we've got in society in the UK today. And if you take it back and look at where that stems from, and the reliance on the state by older people, is this lack of family and belonging where you look after each other.
And I think governments are really trying to find ways to
Yeah.
kind of restate that. So has being Cypriot ever had any impact, positive or negative, on your career all these years in business as entrepreneurs?
So you're bouncing
Sorry,
off
yes,
mic.
something up with Mike. Has being Cypriot ever had an impact in your career? Has anybody ever, you know, seen it as a positive or a negative thing when you were coming up the ranks?
That's it. I think when I first went, see, in those days, in the 50s and early 60s, there was a little bit of, oh, you're a foreigner. That was when there weren't as much immigrants in the UK, and we were new. We were. It was first of all, it was the Jewish people, the Indian people. Then all of a sudden, Cypriots arrive, and we were the foreigners. I think that's not the case anymore, but it was a little bit of that sort of. I wouldn't call it racism, I'd call it ignorance.
I think ignorance is exactly right. I mean, I said I was in Manchester, so there wasn't that many immigrants, and I thought my name was Paki till I was 9. And then when I realised what they meant by Paki, I had to explain, no, I'm from Cyprus.
Get it right.
Can you imagine kids in Manchester running around the streets of Manchester having a clue where Cyprus was? And they, all right, Paki. And it was ignorance. It was pure ignorance, because I can tell you some of those people I'm still in touch with, and I've became lifelong friends. Yes. And I think that was part of the growing up of not just ours, but actually of the nation.
Makes sense. So thinking back to your career so far, the decades you spent in business, if you were going to pick out one thing that our audience today can learn from, and sorry to put you on the spot here, but what do you think that would be? What do you think people can learn from if they're now starting out in business, either as entrepreneurs, in finance? What can they take from your own experience?
Look, I think for anybody who wants to start a business, they've got to have the passion. They've got to be in love with what they want to do, whether it's an idea, whether it's a service, any
Oh, hey!
what is this?
I thought you-
Espionage.
I thought you had a bad knee. I thought you had a bad knee.
It's
I'm sure you're wearing short here.
We don't. I mean, in some embassies around the world, when you go in, you come out in pieces in a suitcase. This is not one of those, so you're fine.
Look, all I can say is, for any young Cypriots who want to be entrepreneurs, you don't have to be a genius. Common sense. Common sense says to you, you want to do something, it's out there, already done. All you got to do is highlight what it is, can you do it better, what's the competition, can you design it better, can you make it better quality, can you give better value, can you give better service. Just improve on an existing idea. You don't have to have a PhD, you just have to have common sense. But more than that, you need to have the passion. You need to have the will to wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to go and make this happen.
I mean, Touker's taking some words out of my mouth, which is the passion bit. But if you haven't got passion, go and do something else, because being in business is tough, right? And if you can't bounce out of bed in the morning, wanting to get back stuck in, then get a job somewhere. But I think more than that, and we call it common sense, Touker. We know common sense is not common. Mislabeled, right? There's a lot of people out there that haven't got it. So if you've got it, that's brilliant news. But the key thing for me is, of course, the old adage of the harder you work, the luckier you get. And you do need that luck. But over and above that, and just to summarize, it's already been alluded to, is do your bloody homework. How many times do you see people when we're in the den, and people come up to me and say, oh, Mr. Paphitis, where do the BBC get all these stupid people who don't know their numbers? Well, welcome to the great British business public, right? People go into business without doing their homework, without understanding what the competition is, what's happening out there. And that's key. I know we all hated it at school, but the more you know, the more homework you've done, surprisingly, the luckier you're going to get.
But one of the other things for young Cypriots today, you're in a much better situation. When we came, Cypriots didn't have a lot of choice. They were either waiters, factory workers, and they were at the bottom end of the scale, you know? And today, we've got Cypriots who are lawyers, accountants, plastic surgeons, in parliament, across the board. So you're in a much better situation than we were 50 years ago. So I think there's better opportunities today to enter all sectors of life. You're not restricted to being an outdoor maker making fashion in Finsbury Park or Camden Town, or you're not restricted to working in a factory somewhere or in a cafe. You know, there are better opportunities, especially in the world where Theo will agree with me, especially in the world of tech, AI, there are opportunities. So I mean, there's never been a better moment if you're ambitious to be an entrepreneur.
Well, I'd go as far as say there's always the moment, irrespective of what the economic climate is doing. For me, it's just you've got different cards that you're playing with. We played with cards that we were dealt with when we started off in life and started off in business, the cards that are available to our kids now are very different, very, very different. But the opportunities are still there.
That's really interesting, and we'll definitely come back to tech and AI. I actually wanted to ask you, though, you both found success by turning around struggling high street brands that were sort of on the down, and you came in and saved them, and that was the sort of way you found, you made yourself as a businessman. Is that still a worthwhile avenue to pursue nowadays, or is that...
Yes. I mean, most businesses that fail, most of it is either mismanagement, no change, or old technology. Yeah. So there are certain things, as I call you can pull certain levers and change things very quickly. You know, whether it's changing the overhead, the product, the service. So it's easier to take a mature business who's doing X turnover and turn that around than to start a brand new business from scratch. There are a lot of startups all struggling. I don't know if you would agree with me, but I mean,
Starting off with a business is tricky. It requires a huge amount of capital investment as well. And that brings with it its own issues. Because unless you've got fairy godmother who's going to give you the cash and allow you to do it, there'll be raising money for startups. You get a lot of checks and balances, not just the dilution that goes with it. Some for the good, may I add, but some can be quite restrictive. But it does take a lot of money. Having legacy brands and turning around those legacy brands has always been something that I've enjoyed, purely because they're already there, they're in the public psyche. But changing people's habits, whatever it is, even in today's promiscuous society, consumers are promiscuous now, far more than they ever were. I mean, they'll jump from one brand to another like that, or because some dozy influencer TikTok and going, ooh, look at me, go and buy this rubbish because they sent it to me. They're very promiscuous. Yeah, but if you remember this, Touker, back in the old days of retail, I mean, the big, giant retail companies, Marks and Spencer's, Woolworths, British Home Store,
GUS.
yeah, all the, you know, they had it. You couldn't compete with these people because you couldn't just set up in business against them. They had, not only did they have the infrastructure, but consumers got used to buying the product.
Well, there was no internet.
Yeah, exactly.
So you know, in the olden days, there was no internet, so people couldn't compare prices. I remember being a retailer. Retailers used to go with pads on the shop floor to count the stock, to make sure by hand. So we've come a long way in the sense of the world of technology, the world
But it does allow some spotty kid in their underwear, right, in their bedroom.
Where is this going?
Whoa. I thought you wrote for The Guardian. In their bedrooms with a computer terminal, who is able to compete with you, irrespective of the infrastructure, because they can just be bright, no technology, and reach a customer base that historically you just needed this hundreds of millions of pounds of infrastructure just to get anywhere near reaching that customer base. So you do have to be sharp, or otherwise, if you're not, one of these spotty kids, and they're probably in school having their milk now, is going to nick your lunch before you realise it.
Well, on that note, we've had the internet, mobile shopping, all of that. Now we have artificial intelligence. How do you think that's changing things?
What's right?
Artificial intelligence, AI.
Well, AI is something that we're all approaching. I mean, we're taking it seriously in our business. We're not jumping into it. But as a personal user, it's amazing what you can do. I wanted to create a brand that I've got, some images, and within 2 minutes, I've got a vision. And then, so AI is definitely here to stay. If you've got the American conglomerates who are spending hundreds of billions on the infrastructure of AI, although AI has been around for a long time.
I married her 50 years ago.
Yep.
She keeps telling me everything I should know.
Yep. So AI is definitely here to stay. I think there'll be winners and losers in AI, and there'll be companies that will specialize in certain industries, We're seeing that in companies that specialize in their industry. We're doing a photo shoot, and they did do it on AI. So definitely, I think if you've got children who are in the young teens, definitely send them to an AI course now, from age 10 upwards. AI is better than piano lessons, I can assure you.
And so how have you used it? You ask it to create a brand.
If you go on ChatGPT and say, I own the trademark, say, lipstick, and I'm going to open a lipstick store, please design me a store. It'll design you a store. You say, change this color to blue, it'll change it to blue.
Eleni, I can't believe you asked that question.
Well, I mean,
I cannot believe you. I bet most of your articles, you go, write me an article on this, please. Oh, yeah. In the style of the Guardian newspaper.
You can do that. You can do that, but it's pretty obvious. So
Is it? Can you tell as a professional?
Absolutely, yeah. You can read it. There's a style. There's a way it writes. I mean, probably most people here could probably. There's a way it writes, and you read something, you're like, okay.
But it is amazing. I'm a professor, believe it or not. Oh no, but I did leave school with a Scottish certificate in colouring in maps, which is GSC geography, because I like colouring in between the lines. But last year I was honoured to become professor at Derby University, where I lecture 3-4 times a year. And this year we did a lecture for the lecturers. And I actually had a one in the auditorium, and I asked them individually, when was their syllabus for their subjects signed off? And the reality is the syllabuses that we teach are so ancient and bloody irrelevant now compared to what is required. Because the reality is the things that we teach, that we expect to cram into people's brains, whether you become a lawyer or an accountant, a professional of some form or the other, where you need to know that technical knowledge, actually, you just need to know where to find it now. Mm-hmm. You don't have to remember. It's how you apply it.
Even business.
Because it's in your pocket.
Yeah.
It's in your pocket. So we really got to change the way we think. If we're going to look at business, if we're going to look at the future, it's not about cramming all the information, or in fact, all the experiences that we have had over the years, the good, the bad, and the ugly, which leave scars on your back. But they're all great experiences because they make you who you are, and the decisions that you make. But the fact is, that's not how the next generation is going to operate. And that's the key point.
What has your biggest setback been, would you say?
My biggest setback? Wow. Well, when I find it, I'm going to tell you. Listen, I have no regrets, as the song knows. There's no regrets. There's lots of learnings. Anything that didn't work out for me made me who I am today. And to sit there and regret rather than moving on and using it positively for the future is probably going to be your biggest regret.
That makes sense. What about you?
Me, I'm a little bit like Theo. I didn't look back. I mean, I always believe that you never give up. Yeah. So I've had setbacks. Luckily, when I was in my 20s, I took on a lot more than I could chew. Chairman of 2 public companies at age 28. With accounts being fraudulent, but lost everything, started all over again. But that was the best lesson of my life. It was as if I gained so much knowledge about what not to do in the future, who not to trust.
But wouldn't it be brilliant if you didn't have to go through that and you were taught that? We're back to the great British business public. 50% fell in the first 2 years, right? Why?
50% of businesses? Or
What? Businesses. Businesses, 50% of all new businesses fell in the first 2 years. But the reason they fell, people have to learn the really hard way. Because a lot of them start another business and actually some will become successful. But the reason they fell is because we haven't gone through the right process, the right education, the right knowledge. And we allow people to learn
The hard way.
the hard way.
Yeah. Well, I think the most important thing, you and I know, Theo, what is key in any business is cash. Cash is king. If you can't afford to pay your salaries on a Friday, you've got a problem. And in those days, that was it. Wages were paid in little packets, little brown envelopes every Friday in cash. and you pick it up and you give it to the employees. That there was no internet, there was no bank transfers, and that was when, if you couldn't afford to pay your employees on a Friday, that was your biggest nightmare. You know, and of course, like today, most banks are like pawn shops. You know, they want to lend you money, they want something in return. They want a guarantee, or they want a charge in your house, which I would never recommend anybody in the room to ever give a personal guarantee or a charge in the house to any bank. But that's the way it used to be. It used to be. That's why whatever business you've got today, cash is king. Do not, you know, and that's what you've got to learn to control, is the money in and the money out.
Oh, speaking of cash, what's your favorite investment that you've made in a business on Dragon's Den?
Well,
Elsewhere.
I guess my favorite investment is what I bought for £1. Halls and Curtis.
Halls and Curtis.
I bought that for £1, but a lot of hard work has gone into it. You know, it's not. It wasn't so easy. So that's probably one of my favourite investments, because it's come right. I've made lots of investments, but when you're investing in small businesses, normally 80% you lose, and you hope that 20% will make up for the rest. Not everyone is going to work out, because in a lot of cases, you are reliant on somebody else running the business. You're reliant on another entrepreneur. And that's why, in a lot of times in the den, when you're investing, you're not investing in the business, you're investing in the entrepreneur, because they're the ones who are going to be running that business.
What about you, Theo? Favorite?
It's a bit tricky, that one. I don't really have a favorite investment, because I get up in the morning to do what I do. And I love doing what I do. And I've got so many different investments and quite varied. There's always a problem child, right? And then, they're all looking at me. We've got families like that, haven't we? And there's always the golden child. The thing about business, of course, if you're not careful, is the problem child and the golden child swap places sometimes. So, you know, they move around. But I think the best thing that ever happened to me was actually running my own retail business, which is what I'm a shopaholic.
Me
So
too.
I'm a total shopaholic. I love going into shops. Even before I was actually in retail, it was always going to be where I was going to end up. There was nothing. So it was finding my own niche within that retail environment and just enjoying it. And quite frankly, all the rest of the stuff is a bit of a sideshow. You know, the den, the football, everything else. Not SPS, clearly, because SPS is a big passion of my Small Business Sunday. But we've got 4,500 small businesses in that network now. But so it's following those passions, enjoying what you do. And quite honestly, it's your favourite, the most profitable investments. At the end of the day, there's a scorecard, right? And the scorecard is money. Your accountant does your accounts, you file your accounts, you pay your tax, and you the boy done good. But that's a financial favourite investment. But there's the other part of it that I've just alluded to, which is the enjoyment investment, the things that you love bouncing out of bed for. And there's no scorecard for that. That is about you, it's about how you're spending this nano-minute of a lifetime that we enjoy on this planet, which is so short, and what you've done with it.
Love that. The next thing I wanted to ask really is, you both found such huge success in business. What do you do to give back? Are you involved in any philanthropy, your charity work?
Well, we all do some charity work. I mean, I do a lot of helping. You help people. People come to you, small businesses, they need 20,000, you help you all the time. I mean, I do charities, yes, but I spread it across. I do a bit of charity work for Peter Jones.
In fairness, he is a charity. Very tall.
Yeah, very poor. But I think charity, going back to what Theo said, he's giving back. And I'm a great believer that you have to give back. You can give back in different ways, whether it's money, which is charitable, whether it's your time, whether it's advice. and I do a lot of, apart from money, which I give a lot of my time to young entrepreneurs who are in difficulties. I mean, every day, 2 or 3 a day will come in the diary for an hour. How can I help them with this? Can I pull the string here? It's all like giving back, you know. And I think I'm 73 this year.
That's twice you've tried to get out, never out of everybody.
Anyway. So, but I think what's happened is that, will I ever retire? Never. I love what I wake up in the morning, I thrive on the next idea, and the team were just sick of me. They said, but what next? Well, what are we working on now? And I think we've got 2 projects we're working on new, and we're steaming, and we're on to the next one. It never stops. But that's because it's in your blood. It's a Cypriot blood. It must be something. It must be the water we drank many years ago. But it's in your blood. We are, as a community, entrepreneurs, whether we are barbers, whether we are cafes, we are in the textile business, we're in lawyers, we're accountants. It's in our blood. Entrepreneurialism is in the Cypriot blood.
Absolutely. What about you, Theo? What would you give
I
back?
keep busy. So I'm vice president of the British Dyslexia Association. They have an article which I've been supporting for many, many years now, because I have dyslexia, and I consider that to be one of my superpowers. And it's about pointing out and sharing those experiences with kids that are dyslexic, that actually you're not thick, you've actually got a superpower that you can turn it to your advantage. So I'm very much into that. Lots of other charities, children's charities mainly, but the key give back for me is something that started 15 years ago, which is Small Business Sunday, which is a small business network helping small businesses. As I said earlier, we've got 4,500 of those throughout the country. We have events throughout. Last year we had 12 boot camps across the UK, plus one big event in Birmingham, and that just keeps growing. And this year, last couple of years, what I enjoy most about it is that now it's become self-sustaining in itself. So it just doesn't need me to support it on my own, which has been brilliant. So small business is very much a big passion of mine, because I remember those days, and I'm sure Touker does, where, you know, it was just you and one other person or 2 other people, and you think, hell,
It was a lonely place.
no, very lonely, and there wasn't the technology where you could reach out to somebody and find the network and find. You really had to go and create that network the old-fashioned way, which to get out, get drunk, meet people, grow that waistline. And
I think that's the point of today.
yeah, exactly. And that networking, do you know what? It's never, ever been as important as it is today.
Yeah, wonderful. One last question from me before we turn to the audience. You mentioned about how Cypriots are entrepreneurs in their spirit, in their blood, and we have a very successful Cypriot diaspora, both here in the UK, but worldwide. Why do you think that is, and what do you think the Cypriot government should be doing to make sure that young Cypriots...
I'm glad they asked you that one first.
well, should I put the on the spot?
I think British Cypriots have all come here for a better life. So in most cases, they've all been through hardship. I very rarely... There are rich Cypriots that have come here, but I think we in the London community come across what I call working class Cypriots. And in a way, what was your question again?
How can the government support its diaspora?
Look, I think, which government?
Well, I was thinking the Cypriot government, but even...
But I think one of the things that I said to His Excellency upstairs is that he should be giving grants to people here today. He said that that's not under his jurisdiction.
No.
Well, maybe one for the good.
You know, you were there. That's not what he said. He said the money machine that he had in the basement of this building when he came was broken. And he hasn't had it repaired yet.
That is what he said. But I think that was a diplomatic answer.
Just to answer your... I think what Cyprus House could do is to create a Cypriot advisory board for young entrepreneurs, where you've got 2 or 3 people here who would advise people, and maybe once every few months, either Theo and I can come along and help a few of these people. I'm very willing to do to engage in advising young entrepreneurs. Maybe financially you've not got the means, you've got the means, but you're too tight to pay. But I mean, but that's one way. Is to give back advice, you know, and also one of the key things is, and I always say this to people, if somebody says to me, I'm from so-and-so country, well, what can you bring from your country to here and vice versa? How do you trade with your own territory? You know, is it citrus? Is it services? What is it? And that's a key thing. Because if you want a two-way traffic, then you're going to have a two-way response.
It's a fine idea. Anything further? Do you have any thoughts on it?
I think, listen, we can always rely on blame the governments for everything.
Yeah, well,
Right? This is dead easy. And in fairness, they are pretty useless. Not just our government in Cyprus or the government, I mean, just generally governments are not the most efficient of organisations because they are bound by political ideology that sometimes causes issues. So it's tough. If you're sitting there expecting for the governments to bear down on everything and do everything for us, that's never going to happen. I think events like this, Cyprus in the city, now is a really good point that whole networking or sharing ideas. And I never want people to come to events to think they're going to walk out with a check or a silver bullet, right? Because it doesn't happen. That's not how it happens. It's about the inspiration that you can share, the ideology that you can share, the know-how that you can share. And Touker said something earlier about back at the day and the businesses that you invest in. So I was there at the beginning and it was bloody awful. My first series that we did, every single one was a disaster, right? Because I invested in what I thought were good ideas. I hadn't worked out that the person that came with the idea was a muppet. And they thought that once I said I'd invest, I was going to go and run their business for them. Second series we did was a lot better because we invested in people I thought I could work with, inspire, mentor, and help them on the way to be successful in their own right. And some have actually become mega successful. I had, the year before last at our SBS event, I had one of the investments that originally I invested on Dragon's Den, and he went on also to do something else afterwards because that people learn. And he just had his business valued at £500 million and got 125 million of cash investment in it.
Wow.
Right? So,
Amazing.
you know, watching that, you know, I was actually in awe, and I remember the sweaty kid that walked in all those years ago. So, waiting for governments to do it. Governments can create, be catalysts and create an environment.
They can vision.
But they're never going to do it for us. We've got to do it ourselves.
Great. And on that note, I think it's time to take some questions from the audience. I'm sure there's lots of people who have got things to ask. Yep, the gentleman in the blue.
Right. So
What's your name? Can I have a name or what you do? At least we know who you are.
I'm Angelos, or Angelo, if you want to go that route. I'm one of the spotty teenagers, although I'm 24.
You're not in your underwear.
Right.
In your bedroom.
Yes. But yeah, my question is sort of along those lines. Now that information and skills are freer and more accessible than they've ever been, anyone can pick up any skill that they want. They can use AI to perform skills that they might not have yet. They can access information at any time. How do you then start to differentiate yourself in a market where entrepreneurs are more enabled than ever? The playing field has become more level. How do you be the person that, you know, someone like yourself, an investor, sees as throughout to put their faith in?
Yeah.
Okay, do you want to tell that or shall I take it?
You take it first.
He said something really key. So the answer is actually in your question.
Okay.
Right? You said, in this world where there's a level playing field, right, if you want to compete with everybody on a level playing field, you're in massive danger of getting a bloody nose, right? So don't. Give yourself the advantage. So there's no point competing with everybody at the same level. And I've always said, give yourself the advantage. The advantage is, make sure that, I touched on it earlier, you know more about your subject matter, put more effort into it, work harder, you to get luckier as well on the way if you do that, right? Because not everybody's like you, because we're humans, and that differentiates us between AI. We can both ask exactly the same question of AI. It can give us exactly the same bloody answer, but we can do something different with it. And that's the difference.
Angelos, I would give every penny I've got to be your age. Right? That's the first. Look, I think what I've learned today is very simple. If you have a business and you're selling a £3 product and you want to be a billionaire, unless it's amazing, you'll never be a millionaire. So I think it's very important to differentiate what is your passion and what you want to do. And how do you imagine that around it being scaled up? You know, if you're in the shipping business, like a lot of Greeks are, they focused on shipping and made a lot of money being in the shipping business. Whether they started as a clerk and ended up as a ship owner, but they knew that path, right? So I think it's very important that you determine where is your passion, how big can that passion be, and there are some key areas where it's banking, shipping, communication. There are some key elements of business to make real money. And that's a decision that you've got to make now, but you've got to dedicate a lot of your time. And the most important thing is focus, focus, focus. Don't get distracted. No matter where you start, because you could carry on long enough in where your journey is, you'll get there. But unless you want to get there, you won't get there.
I feel like I'm in the dragon's den. I love it. More questions? Yep, please. Can't.
Hello there. I'm Sula Christodoulou. I'm an author and writing mentor. I wanted to ask you, it's amazing that you've achieved what you've achieved in relatively, I would say, a short space of time, although it might not feel like that for you. But it sounds like you're working all the time. What my question is what do you do during your downtime? You know, what do you do to...
Work. If your work, Sudha, if your work is your passion, you can never get enough of it. And I love it when people say to me, I'm looking for a work-life balance. And I'm like, brilliant, go and bloody work somewhere else then. Because there's this thing about work-life balance. What is it? What is the work-life balance? If you're going to be prescriptive, then it's we all do things. We generally, I know we're both boys, I don't know if you've noticed, right? But there's plenty of girls in our position as well. But just to dispel the theory that boys can't multitask, because we bloody can, right? So people can do lots of different things at the same time. So your work-life balance and your stuff that you do doesn't have to be prescriptive periods or in the evening or the weekend, or it can just generally be about what you do and what you take back house at.
Yeah. But you've got a big family, Theo.
I have got 5 children, and little Archie came along a few months ago, became the 11th grandchild.
Congratulations.
And that keeps me really, really busy.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Well, I've got 2 daughters, no grandchildren. But going back to your question, whoever knows me personally will know I'm a workaholic. And the way I spend my time, I work hard in the office 5 days a week, and people come to me and say, can I work from home? And I say, when I work from home, you can work from home. And at the weekends, I don't play golf or anything, but what I do, I treat the weekends as a knowledge weekend. So I will go around the shops, I'll go to Westfield, which I live very, very close by, and I will learn about other brands, what they're doing, talk to people, there's nothing better than talking to people on the ground. I walk into a shop and they say, I know you. And I say, and how are things? And I'll ask the questions. I'll get.
They call you Theo.
Well, I think the ones that call me Theo have got white sticks.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah, but yes, a lot of people call me Theo, and by the way, I just ignore them. That's not me. I said not me. But all I'm saying, going back to what you're saying, it's in your blood.
Yeah.
You know, and I find, and I love it. And it's not a question of, I mean, when you get to a certain point in your life, it's not about money. It's about succeeding, yes, but it's about, you have a vision. Can you make that vision work?
Yeah.
And like I said, I've got 2 projects I'm working on. I'm trying to make that vision work. And hopefully, when I pass it down to family or whoever, I pass on the baton.
Right, any more
More
questions?
questions? Oh,
We're going to keep answers distinct now,
Yeah.
otherwise we're never going to get through.
I'm not
That's
sure
all
how long we have,
All right,
but
we'll keep
hopefully,
those really quick and sharp.
hopefully somebody will wave me down when we're done.
All right, guys, show some activity.
So the gentleman in the
Some
red
life.
there,
Okay.
and then there's 2 ladies here near the front after.
Okay.
Thank you, Eleni. I'm just coming from a presentation of this book by a very distinguished economics, Mariana Mazzucato, who is advising the government, the previous government, and the today's government.
Which government?
My question
The UK.
today
UK,
to
yeah.
her
The UK.
was whether we're going back, this marking 10 years of Brexit. It doesn't work to the country, it worked to the country, and when are we going back to Europe?
That's a brilliant question. Brexit.
Brexit.
We've had Wes Streeting say that he would go back into Europe if he became Prime
Look,
Minister.
I think there are good things and bad things about Brexit. I mean, as entrepreneurs, the first thing is the free trade. And the other thing which we saw was the movement of labour. And what we found for a while after Brexit, that there was a labour shortage. You know, salaries were going up in certain areas. And I think what will happen is I think there'll be a trade deal with EU. I don't think there'll be a total going back within the EU, which will probably suit both entities. However, we had a democratic vote in this country, and we'll probably have to have another democratic vote to see where we're going to go.
Would you like to see the UK go back into Europe?
I think economically, if we could go back without any votes, just on a mutual benefit to both parties, yes.
What about you, Theo?
Listen, you ain't going to turn the clock back. We are where we are. Don't remember I said earlier, there's no silver bullet in anything. I never expect a silver bullet. Leaving the EU wasn't a silver bullet. Going back to the EU is not a silver bullet. The fact that we've made such a hash up of leaving, right? It's not because we left the EU, it's that we were bloody useless, right? It's after. We didn't control our borders, we didn't do trade deals, we sat there contemplating our navel, having political psychodramas in the Tory party, instead of doing the job that the punters voted for in the first place. So there's no guarantee that we can trust anyone else to get it right for us to go back into the EU. So by that virtue, I think we negotiate well, we make friends, we build bridges, we have relationships, and get on with our lives.
Thanks. I think we had a question here to these 2 women at the front, please.
Thank you. Hi, Theo 1 and Theo 2. Sorry, Touker.
And this is going to stay.
Or two.
That's okay.
My name's Helen Wood. I work in digital transformation, primarily with enterprise businesses, helping them to become digital powerhouses. My question expands a little bit on what Touker touched on earlier around customer experience. There's obviously a lot of changes going on with technology and AI at the moment. And Gen Z are bringing a whole new change in behaviour, especially when it comes to like the luxury sector. That's changing. It's becoming harder to engage with customers. How are you changing your businesses or setting up for changes in customer behaviour, especially with Gen Z? You know, they're turning more towards sustainability, towards more cyclical products in society, platforms like Vinted. They're moving away from mass consumption So I'm interested to know how you're preparing your businesses as well for changes in consumer behaviour.
Well, I think it's not as dramatic as you say it is. I think TikTok is having a big part in promoting your product in different formats. So I think vintage will be there for a while. Second-hand clothes, vintage clothes, that's part of where we're at. And I think it will evolve. I'm just entering the beauty world, and the beauty world's gone crazy with social media, giving things away, I mean, it's crazy. So I think we have to go with the times. Luxury at the moment is having a hard time. You know, we all know people are not buying luxury. They're buying luxury bags and shoes, but not buying clothes. So I think you have to be agile. You have to keep your eye on what's going on. You have to have young members of your team that can tell you what's going on. So you never stop.
Okay, so I'm going to contradict Touker now. Been the first time.
That's all right. It's always the first time.
I heard what you had to say, but it's interesting how you pour your interpretation on the actions of the consumer. And as a marketeer, which I assume that's what you are, yes? Well, your digital transformation is
Very serious.
yeah, makes you marketeer in my book, but right, that's what you do. But let's go through it. You say about social conscious sustainability. Well, really, is that why one of the fastest growing fashion retailers is fast fashion Shein? That's got disposable fashion, which gets made in China and is completely unsustainable, right? So really, now they're voting in their pockets, right? So let's have that one. Then let's put pay to the other one that you said about vintage, right? Vintage. They're looking at sustainability and giving life to second-hand clothes. No, what they're doing is technology has allowed them to do what many people did before, because we used to have charity shops where people recycle products, but it made it easier now and less of a stigma to trade products. And you know why they're doing it? Because it suits their pocket, right? So if we're honest with each other, it's the economics that's driving it, not social conscience. My biggest concern with Generation Z, or what you're going to call them now, is the thing that I like that's happening, but I also hate it, but I feel they're becoming reliant on it, and it's not a good thing, and that is the lack of effort to achieve or find out information. Right? We said about what we've all got in our pockets. We've got, the smartest computer in the world is in our pocket now. So to actually achieve things, you had to put in a level of effort. Now you can achieve those things with very little effort. And for me, those expectations are dangerous. Yeah. And that basically is a social issue. If I want to I'll finish this on a downer, right? But it could be the thing that actually the straw that breaks the camel's back of democracy. And it's a serious thing. So we got to make sure that we don't, first of all, stigmatize any particular age group, but also understand that what's happening economically out there with the tech bros and everything else and the algorithms that are driving some of this behavior is not a good thing, and we need to be braver in tackling it.
Very, very interesting. Right, so we're almost out of time. Shall we have two last questions, single sentences? The lady there, I promised before, and the gentleman at the very back.
Hi, both. My name's Nicole. I just work down the road at BP in the mergers and acquisitions team. My question is, both of you touched on...
whether you've got a vacancy.
Nice try.
Go for it.
You both touched on the fact that you invest in the entrepreneur, the person behind the business, because there are levers that you can pull to make sure the business is successful. What are the top, let's say, 3 characteristics that you either look for or that you have seen sort of thematically makes a good entrepreneur, someone you can work with?
And can we take the second question at the same time at the very back there, very, very back? Yeah.
Well, first of all, it's honesty.
Just let's maybe hear the second question, then you can answer.
He's going to forget by the time.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't, I will.
I remember.
My name is Theo Theodoru. No relationship to yourself, Theo.
Great name.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm in education, an entrepreneur in education as well. My question is regarding entry-level jobs. We're seeing tremendous problems where tens of thousands of graduates every year are going into the employment market, but there are less and less jobs.
Yeah.
Some are blaming AI, some are blaming employers, government on placing NIC and so forth. How or what do you do regarding entry-level jobs, and how do you see the future for young graduates?
It's okay, go first.
Okay, look, I think we have a policy that I prefer graduates, because graduates have gone through the education, the discipline that we want. And my experience so far, where we bring a new graduate, and I spend time with them initially, they turn out to be good entrepreneurs. And I think there is life for graduates. This government doesn't make it easy to employ graduates. They should be making it a lot more easier for entrepreneurs and enterprises to employ people below a certain age, whether it's a tax break of some sort, rather than putting on taxes, giving tax breaks if you employ somebody like who's been out of work for 12 months, give them 6, whatever it is. There is a future for graduates. We want people that have been well educated. That doesn't mean that people who are not well educated or have got dyslexia are not going to be successful.
Well, I am a result of one of those initiatives. My first job was because it was my first job, and the only reason I was employed because I hadn't had a job beforehand, and the company I went to work for got £1,300 from the government for employing me. Guess what my salary was?
£5 a week.
£1,300, exactly to the penny of what the government was paying.
Wow.
And it gave me a start.
Yes, and that's what the government needs to do.
And there are 3 top qualities that you look for.
Okay, so the free talk, it's very simple. You know, you're talking about someone who's honest. I've invested in lots of entrepreneurs who've turned out to be not honest. Second of all, somebody who's got a passion of what they do. And the third thing is the gut feeling. You always have a gut feel most. They're the 3 things I look for. I'm going to make it quick because we can do a few more.
Absolutely. Passion is important to me. Application, hard working, honesty, wanting to succeed. And you know what? I've invested in people that certain other people, to remain nameless, thought were never entrepreneurs, would never ever make the success of being an entrepreneur, but they have. You don't have to be a Premier League entrepreneur to be have a successful business. You can be a Championship player or a League 1 player, League 2 player.
And entry-level jobs?
Entry-level job, as I said to you, it's the initiatives. We have to put the initiatives in because we're not recognising, we talked about the changes in what's happening out there in employment land, or Lulu land as I call it. But we need to recognise it, and we haven't recognised it. And I can tell you all the points that we've discussed about national insurance and everything else, and the damage and technology, and what would happen to entry-level jobs, I've discussed with the government at the most senior bloody level. And they glazed over.
We do have a bit of wiggle room. Do you want to take another couple?
Yeah, well, I don't mind.
Right. Okay, well, very
enthusiastic chap over the beard.
Exactly.
He's actually standing up. He's going for it.
Let's do 2 again. So anybody else?
I don't mind.
Yep, here at the front, the lady in the white after.
Thank you very much for the generosity of your time. I don't take this for granted. I appreciate it greatly. My name is Kostas. I'm the co-founder of Solution Team. I'm here with my partner in both life and now business. We're doing this together. It is very much so a product and a labor of love. And similarly to Touker, I spent some time in professional services. Similarly to Theo, I spent some time in Manchester, and now I live close to Finsbury Park.
Finsbury Park.
Finsbury Park. And we spoke about
having passion. We spoke about having common sense. We also spoke about having the willingness, the grit, the tenacity to keep going when things are difficult, when things are hard. But we also spoke that at these early stages, entrepreneurship can be a very lonely place. And oftentimes we're wondering, what are we doing? And I wanted to first know whether this is something that you have encountered in your entrepreneurial journey. And if that was indeed the case, what did you do in those moments? And the second part of my question is whether we'll be able to be one of the entrepreneurs that Touker spends 1 hour a day advising as a contribution, and maybe one of the organizations that can benefit from Theo's membership. Thank you very much.
You want to know why I'm doing it? Is that the question?
The question is, when you encounter moments when it's difficult to keep going, when you're wondering,
Let me come into it.
All right,
I touched on it earlier, networks, right? SBS and small businesses, that's exactly, there's another great networks out there. If when you're having a tough time, somebody else is probably having a good time. It's being able to share, able to discuss, able to debate what's happening in your world and get information. That's the easiest thing now compared to where we were, what we started. There's a lot more out there, more digitally available to you. Make sure you embrace that. Don't be an island. No one's going to steal your ideas, right? Be prepared to be open and discuss things with people.
My advice would be look around you, near you. Who can you trust? Who can you get mentorship from? You know, how old are you?
34.
Right, so you're not young. So me.
What? Does that mean you won't give him all your money to swap places with him?
No, not quite. But all I'm saying is don't hide yourself. As Theo said, Theo runs a very successful organization which you should join. And look around you. Find a mentor. Find somebody you can talk to. You know, don't leave it all to yourself. And if you've got a problem, talk to people about it. See if they can help you.
Will you meet Kostas?
Yeah, why not? Dylan,
Last question here, yep, thank you.
Bobby Trehan-Young, Microsoft subject matter expert, and also founder of my brand, Bobby London. And more importantly, I'm part of Theo Paphitis' SDS cohort.
The guys he gave me.
So just to say thank you for all the time that you give, and I couldn't kind of agree more with, I think you guys have validated a lot of the strategies that I followed. I've funded myself, so never really stepped away from my consultancy career. It's been slow, but it's the support that I've had from SDS, the opportunities that have just been absolutely incredible. And of course, to be part of the room today. So just a thank you, not a question.
Thank you.
Great.
Should we do two more? That's it?
Yeah. I think it's...
Theo, two more? One each?
One each,
One each. All right, great.
So the director
Touker's. This next one's Touker's, and I'll do the one after.
No, this one's to me. Whoever's going to do one to me.
Okay.
And then one to Theo.
Thank you for your time today. Hi, I'm George. My question is, if you were starting out again, what type of business would you look to get into? And after what stage, after which milestones would you think it best value to go on Dragon's Den to make the most of that opportunity?
Let me tell you, if I was starting again, I want to do something I'm passionate about, that's got scale. I said it earlier on, you know, if you deal with pennies, you'll make pennies. You deal with pounds, you make pounds. Deal with millions, you make millions. It's very obvious. You've got to be in an industry where you start from the bottom and you have a target. At your age, you have a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, you know, and you know where you want to be.
What will be your choice?
Be my choice today? It would have to be either finance or tech.
Right.
Or retail, which I love.
That's the last bloody one he should be doing. Right, next one.
Yeah.
And there's a question there for you, in the gentleman on the right. Yeah.
That's it.
Hi, I've waited enough for this. My name is Petros Kourtilaris. I'm a designer and artist. Thank you so much for this evening. The question is for Touker.
That's a Theo.
No, you can't. He already had one.
What?
Give it to Theo.
Yeah.
Well, it's specific to Theo. So
Who was Theo?
Sorry, specific to Touker, not Theo.
Okay, fine.
All right, come on now.
So, question: I've seen that you support retail, right? And you are part of Hexley and Cox. So,
I've got loads of companies. You carry on.
yeah, this specific. So, I was interested in your work. So, I looked up the company, and I've seen that you haven't
It's like it
updated.
does with trade, exactly, Cox.
Well, yes,
I've got
exactly. So
40
you haven't
companies.
updated the Instagram since 2016, but the company is still registered. So
Yeah.
what is
Well,
what's the
I always
story?
like to keep the brand names.
Okay, you like to keep the brand name.
No, I like to keep. If I have a company I've used installment, I keep the brand. One day I have an idea and I use that brand. Never give away brands, guys. Always keep the brands going.
Right.
So there's still hope. Yeah, still hope. Perfect.
Still hopeful.
That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. Great. Wonderful. Well, thanks to everyone for those fantastic questions. It's time for us to wrap up. Thanks. Before we do, I'm going to hand over to Olivia, but let's thank our panelists. We've got a Cyprus in the City, the Cypriot High Commission, and Oxygen for Democracy. Thanks, everyone. Olivia.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Lovely.
Yeah, fantastic discussion. I mean, you can tell from the energy in this room, very inspiring. Even I'm inspired and I'm a civil servant. We've been... We've been given some great ideas, and even for a government organization, how to facilitate the environment to have entrepreneurial advice. So we will think about that. We'll go away and think about that, and maybe offer some good ideas after that. Without further ado, I will call to the mic Christos Karaolis, President of the National Federation, to offer his closing remarks.
High Commissioner, dear Theo, Touker, and Eleni, distinguished guests, I'm very conscious that I stand between all of you and the reception afterwards, so I'll keep this brief. So today has obviously been an incredibly powerful reminder about the extraordinary strength, ambition, and influence that our diaspora here in the UK has. And what a privilege it has been to hear from two remarkable business leaders, Theo Paphitis and Touker Suleyman, whose stories embody so much of what our community represents: resilience, entrepreneurship, determination, and vision. Theo and Touker are not simply successful businessmen, they're role models for generations of British Cypriots and for aspiring entrepreneurs, as we heard, across the country. Their journeys show what happens when talent is matched with hard work, courage, and belief. We heard a lot of it, and that makes luck, according to Theo. They've built businesses, they've created jobs, they've inspired young people, and they've demonstrated that our community can compete and lead at the very highest levels of British business. I also want to thank Eleni Gourea for guiding us through that conversation with such professionalism, insight, and warmth. As a journalist at The Guardian, Eleni represents another important dimension of what our community brings to British society, shaping national conversations, asking those important questions, and ensuring thoughtful voices are heard in public life. Together, today's panel reflected the breadth of the British Cypriot success story, because our success story here in the UK is not simply about where we came from, it's about what we've built and where we're going. From family-run shops and restaurants established by the earlier generations to boardrooms, media organizations, investment firms, technology companies, and public institutions, today, our community has become a force far greater than its size. And what makes me most proud is that that community has never been built on and forgotten its roots. It's built on the values that we've passed down from generation to generation. Today, our diaspora does have influence, reach, and talent across every sector of society. We're builders, creators, innovators, investors, and leaders across all sectors. And importantly, and increasingly, we are connected to each other and to Cyprus. The next generation is here and watching. We heard from young British Cypriots today who are looking at Theo and Touker and thinking, why not me? And that belief really matters. That representation matters, and ultimately our community matters. So I hope today is not simply a conversation, but as Theo said, a catalyst. Because when this community comes together, there is very little that we cannot achieve. Thank you very much.
there is wonderful Cypriot wine. Stay, meet, network, and grow your waistline.